March 14th, Bloomington Monroe County MPO Policy Committee meeting to order. We'll start with introductions. To my right, be Jason.
Hello, Jason Bannon from the University.
Hello, Nate Nickel. I'm with the City of Bloomington Public Works Department and a proxy for Public Works Director Adam Wason.
Chris Woolman with NDOT.
Scott Ferris, Monroe County Plan Commission.
Hopi Stossberg, Bloomington City Council.
Doug Horn, Bloomington Public Transit Corporation Board of Directors.
Lisa Ridge, Monroe County Highway.
John Kennedy, Citizen Advisory Committee.
Andrew Seabor, serving as proxy for Mayor Thompson.
Jillian Kinsey from the Bloomington Plan Commission and Plat Commission.
Katie Gandhi, MPO staff.
Pat Martin, MPO staff.
Thank you.
Online.
Item 2 would be approval of the meeting
Lisa.
agenda.
Jody is online.
Oh. Jody, are you online?
I am. In fact, I'm outside and walking in right now because I have to find some traffic, so I will see you all shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to wait a couple seconds. I'll just go on. I'm sure she'll be okay. So approval of the meeting agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the meeting agenda.
Do I have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any comments? Any public comment? Seeing none, all those in, I can just do this since we don't have anybody on hybrid, correct? Okay. All those in favor for the approval of the meeting agenda as submitted, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion unanimous. Approval of minutes for February 14th, 2025.
Motion to approve the February 14th minutes.
We have a motion and we have a second. Any comments? Any public comment? Seeing none. All those in favor for approving the minutes as submitted, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Communications from the chair or vice chair. I really don't have anything.
I don't have anything either.
Okay. Reports from officers and/or committees. Do we have anything from citizens?
At our last meeting, we approved the, recommended to Policy Council that they approve the tip.
Technical Advisory Committee?
Yes, the TAC met on February 26th, and we also recommended approval of the fiscal year 2026-2030 tip that's on our agenda today. Thanks.
Thank you. Moving on for reports from the MPO staff. First item is the Crash Hub Crash Dashboard.
Okay, so as the effort to bring awareness and visibility to transportation issues and our local goals to achieve zero traffic deaths and serious injuries by 2039, The MPO has collaborated with the City of Bloomington ITS Department's GIS team and Planning and Engineering departments to create this Bloomington Crashes and Roadway Safety Site that you see here. This site intends to provide resources related to motor vehicles, bicycle and pedestrian crashes throughout entire Monroe County. So far, it includes the two resources you see here, a crash dashboard and a story map here that describes the high-priority streets and intersections that were identified in the crash analysis completed as part of the City of Bloomington Planning and Transportation's Department's Safe Streets for All plan. So the data for both the dashboard and the Safe Streets for All crash analysis here, they're both sourced from State of Indiana standard crash reports, which are maintained in a statewide database. And this, the Safe Streets for All crash analysis uses data from January 2019 to December 2023. The crash dashboard here, it currently shows 2019 to 2023 data, and it'll continue to be updated in the future years as we receive and process data from the state. I'll also note that there may be some slight differences between these two resources, although it shouldn't be too noticeable. The reason for that is because the data used for each was processed by two different sets of processes and teams. The Safe Streets for All analysis was done before the City of Bloomington standardized a process for processing, created a standardized process for handling the crash data. So just a quick overview, because this probably won't ever happen again. This is the dashboard here, and processing the data that goes into this has been a team effort between MPO staff, the GIS team, and the engineering department. And then the GIS team takes the cleaned up data and does their magic to create the visuals that you see. So just a few quick tips about the dashboard, although you will encounter much of it when you explore it yourself. But less obvious are that, first of all, you can click these little expand buttons in each of the corners to make any graph you want full size. You can also move panels over however you want, which is pretty fun. You can see the total stats up here. This is with all filters reset. But then as you select certain filters, so click on just 2019 data, all of the tables and charts you see will change. You can also filter by location of crashes that are in Bloomington or Ellettsville or in the county. You can filter by cause of crash, serious injuries, number of serious injuries, and urban area as well. Also crash type, bicycle, car, pedestrian. Let's do bicycle here. So another quick tip is that here you'll see the point map. Oh, the captions are in the way. Okay. So the point map, if you want to zoom into a particular intersection, as you do that, because there's a lot of points that are overlapping, so you cannot just count them if you're interested in knowing the number. But if you go into the table, it filters out just the crashes at that intersection. Another cool map here is the bin map, which divides the community into these squares and does, let's go back to all years here, and which is kind of another version of the density map here. Then there is a trends tab up here at the top that you can switch to. And you'll see another set of tables and graphs. We've got manner of collision by time of day, locality and surface condition. We've got injuries and fatalities over time or by crash type or by crash location, and then annual crashes per mile of road. Another quick one I'll highlight is the high-frequency streets and the most common crash factors. And again, like crash factors will change if you just select Monroe County data. I believe animal object in the roadway is the most significant crash factor for county crashes. And then there's this information tab in the top right corner here where you can go and you can get more information on any of the definitions and then how crash rate by road length was calculated. So we encourage you to spend some time exploring these resources, and we're open to any suggestions or questions you have about it.
Katie? Any questions from the board?
Sure. Katie, thank you. I appreciate a good dashboard, and this looks like a good one, and I also appreciate that it's so publicly available. What's the initiative? Is this something that has been in the works for some time, and how do you expect people to use it or want them to use it?
Well, Pat, since you were here when this idea first started, it's been under process for about a year now, I think. So
The driving force behind it is the Safe Streets and Roads for All study, which has the adopted Vision Zero policy by the year 2039. And then this also comes in, correlates with the state of Indiana's initiative to reduce what's called FSIs, fatal and serious injury crashes across the entire state. All states in the U.S., including Indiana, are under a mandate of reducing fatalities and serious injury crashes. And one way of doing that is making sure that the crashes are documented, the right place, the right time, right location, right causal factor. And then you can apply, and this is what the city of Bloomington will be doing in the engineering department, you can apply corrective measures. In other words, if you have certain types of crashes happening in a particular intersection, there are countermeasures, proven safety countermeasures, proven as in 87% of the time proven, that will be used to systematically address every location, every intersection, and every corridor that comes out as statistically significant. So that, going to the bottom line, it's all about safety, safety, safety. I hope that answers your question.
It's such a tremendous resource, and I just want to make sure that there's some sense of how the public can use it and how people doing research, or obviously all the city units that have responsibilities related to safety and transportation can use it. But it's a tremendous dashboard, so kudos to whoever worked on this, but it's quite extensive.
there's a lot of different ways you can look at the data, and so an unknown number of conclusions can possibly be drawn from it. It also helps make data more transparent. Right now, it just goes into a state database. There's actually a lot of cleanup that's required, so a lot of the MPOs are taking it upon themselves to clean up the data and try and make it more useful and also presentable, so that if somebody comes and wants to know, what are your high-frequency streets, you don't have to just do that data analysis every time that happens. You can see it here. It will also be updated. Now, of course, there's a lot under the surface, deeper, that we can't necessarily share with the public. Data like what engineering department uses to do deep dives into particular intersections or look at crashes more in detail and see exactly how they happened. But this at least is more information for the public that we can provide.
Yes.
Scott?
So the question I have is the accuracy of your data. and where you get your data from. I know the answer to the question, I believe, but I want you to tell me what your source is for the data that's included here.
Yeah, I mentioned that it's, the source is the ARES database, which is, so it's sourced from State of Indiana standard crash reports. So all of the police forces, IU, Monroe County, City of Bloomington, have to fill out forms reporting data on all these crashes. That information is stored at a state level.
And so you think it's 100% accurate then?
No, I never said it was 100% accurate. It's as close as we can possibly get, and a lot of cleanup has gone into it within bounds. So no extreme decisions were made when the data was being cleaned up. A lot of what was cleaned up was the coordinates and street names. So no, I mean, we're at the mercy of what the police can put into the system. We've had conversations with NDOT about having conversations with the police, state police, to try and refine their system, do more education, to have their police folks put the data in, as accurately as possible. But no, it will never be 100% accurate, but it can help hopefully illuminate hot spots and possibly some trends that are significant to our region.
The reason for the question is exactly down the road you were going, no pun intended. That is that we use this data to justify improvements to roadways, et cetera. And I don't have complete confidence that everything's being reported. And so therefore, when we try to justify improvements to other areas, it's kind of difficult on occasion because some of the data has not been reported. That's why I was asking the question, how confident are you with the information?
The reports are required by law, by Indiana law, and so we go by what's reported, and then we do not change what the officer puts into the reports. We verify the accuracy of that, and sometimes the data is the best available data at the time. Someone may be seriously injured, and they may die in the hospital later, or they may have an injury, but they refuse to, in medical services, go to the hospital, so therefore it's recorded as just a standard injury instead of a serious injury, and there may be complications beyond that. Or there may be what I would call a property damage crash where there are injuries, but the people refuse treatment, so therefore it's recorded as a property damage crash. The thing that we look at, and in previous years, I've gone through every individual record of every individual year, 3,000, 4,000 records a year. We're going through looking at the location because it's all about the location, making that as accurate as possible. And what this does is this assigns GPS coordinates to every crash that's out there based on the highest accuracy level that we can obtain. So nothing is 100% perfect, but this is pretty close.
I understand that you're only as good as the data that you're provided. And I honestly believe that you're accurately reporting correctly the data that you're provided, so.
I also want to say I don't necessarily think that anybody would solely use this tool to justify decisions that are being made. This is here to provide some, first of all, just transparency to the public about, oh my gosh, this is how many crashes we have in a year. This is how many serious and fatal injuries we have, and this is where they tend to be clustered. There's a level of information that the public will never see, and that's what planning and engineering look at more deeply in the surface. So they decide, okay, there's some trends here happening on East 3rd Street. Let's look more specifically at all these hotspot intersections and what's happening. How are the cars turning? How are they hitting each other? A lot of the police report information is reported about that, and in diagrams even, and that's not something we can really show the public very easily, but it's available.
And sometimes we'll do deeper dives into intersections such as State Road 46, College Mall Road, and 3rd Street. There was a deep dive analysis of that several years ago, and the number one causal factor was driver inattention. Because of the cycle length being 240 seconds, a lot of drivers were picking up their cell phones and checking their cell phones at the time, and as a result, there were rear-end accidents or what have you. So we do the best we can with what we've got. And these are, well, this is one tool in the toolbox, I guess I could say, for engineering, for our engineering, county engineering, and also for NDOT engineering staff too. I mean, there are a number of factors that go into investment decisions of where to put a project, where to put an improvement project and what to do. And this is just one of those elements, and we try and make it as accurate as possible.
I noticed on the crash type pull-down menu that you list pedestrian, car, bicycles. Is there any collection of data on commercial vehicles?
No, it's not split at the state police level. All we can do, if we wanted to extract that, and you can, so if engineering, for example, wanted to know more details about that, they could go in and do keyword searches to pull that data, you know, truck, bus, things like that. But no, there's no, I don't believe that Aries has separate, go ahead.
We've done that in previous years. It's not showing up on this dashboard, but we have gone in previous years and done that analysis, looking at commercial vehicles, and it's surprisingly low. 1.5, 1.7% of all the crashes are commercial vehicles.
Yeah.
It turns out they're amazingly safe. And then we also looked at all bus transit vehicle crashes too. Over 2019, 2024, we looked at all of those. Those are all surprisingly low too, for that matter. By and large, they're incredibly safe. Commercial vehicles are incredibly safe. Now, the cars, that's a different story. And
So it would be probably more prudent to say that commercial drivers are
Yes.
more safe than
Commercial,
than
yes.
your
CDLs.
standard car driver.
CDLs are better than.
Okay,
yes.
well, thank you for that, because
Sure, sure.
there's such a predominance and growing number of commercial vehicles using the roadways that I would expect that interest might peak, but if the statistic is essentially not even germane, I can understand why it wouldn't be, but thank you for that info.
Yeah, we had a requirement 2 years ago by the Federal Highway Administration to look at freight analysis, freight movements through our area. And that was the reason for our analysis of looking at commercial vehicles. And like I said, it was very surprising in terms of how low it was. And what ones there were predominantly on the state system, Interstate 69, and also on the state roads, not on the local roads at all.
But the state police reporting level does not force the policeman to specifically state that it was commercial or truck vehicle, whereas they have a check mark for the other options that we have on here. So it's something we could potentially include in the dashboard in the future, especially when we use AI in the future to do this data analysis. Then it can go in and figure out which crashes included a truck, for example. But yeah, it's not easily available from the state in that format. It requires more time.
I want to say this is a great tool. We use Aries in our annual report for a 3-year crash report. It shows us our hotspots. It also gives us a tool for an HSIP project for safety improvement. If you have the crash data to back that for those improvements, we just did awarded for an HSIP project for Fairfax Road. You know, we have a lot of runoff crashes in the curve areas, so we're going to put down high-friction surface treatment in those areas. So, and I know how the data can be, the spellings of words and the inconsistencies and the lack of the GPS coordinates. So, yeah, I know what kind of time you guys put into this because we've seen those headaches, too, on our side. So, great. I think it's awesome information. Next, update on the Bloomington, Monroe County MPO projects.
Well, I just thought I would share a few updates that were shared by the city and county engineers at the TAC meeting. So reminder, these are for the projects that use federal funding allocated through the MPO. So the Neil Copper reported that the Beeline Trail extension, which is the one over here west of Adams, the work is mostly complete, but a block of it adjacent to the railroad was delayed for environmental remediation. And this project should wrap up in the spring. The First Street project here, the road is open, but if anyone's gone through there, they're still doing some final work there. They are doing bids now for the Crosswalks Phase 2 project. The West 2nd Street project here has been delayed due to environmental review issues from NDOT, and the original bid letting was in May, but has now been pushed into August, which is into another federal fiscal year. So funding is being shifted into a mixture of other city, county, NDOT, and transit projects. High Street project here is doing its right-of-way acquisition, and then the North Dunn project here is starting with design consultation selection. The county reported, Paul from the county reported that the Sunrise Greetings overpass over here on Vernal Pike is setting beams in the middle of March, and the project should be complete in July, August. Any questions? All right, the next item, I just wanted to share about NDOT's design manual update meeting. Andrew Seabour here also attended it with me, and it was very interesting. So they started off with some strong statistics. Oops, where's my... Okay. So someone is killed or seriously injured in a crash in Indiana every 49 minutes, which led to a $21.5 billion cost to Indiana in 2023 in medical bills, property damage, and lost wages. They also shared this chart here on how Indiana compares. You can see Indiana is the green line, the US rate is the blue line just above it, and then you have Canada, UK, I think that's Australia, yeah, Australia, and Germany, and down here below. They also showed this map here. So the blue is predicted fatalities in the future with no safety work. The gray is predicted fatalities with, I didn't calculate that out, billions of dollars in spending per year on safety. And then the orange here is where we want to be based on the commissioner's goal of 2% reduction in fatalities. So everyone agrees that safety is a huge issue, but since safety money is not the answer or enough of an answer, it doesn't get us closer to the goal. And so they are working on leveraging what the DOT does, and communities as well, with regards to safety. So in a kind of surprising turn of events, NDOT is partnering with a consultant to review NDOT's current practices for urban and suburban design and preparing a plan to make changes to their current process. So historically, NDOT's road design strategy has been determined based on the functional class of the road, so like whether the road is rural or urban, and whether and what the existing posted speed limit is. And that process can lead to designs that are unnecessarily wide in areas where traffic should be traveling slower. And then wide roadways tend to lead to faster driving and poor safety, poor walkability, et cetera. So NDOT is actually in the process of redoing their design manual, and rather than using functional class of the road to guide its design, they are moving more towards a context-based design approach, which means that they're going to do the design based on the roadway and the surrounding land uses in order to help promote, more appropriate speeds, more safety, more walkability. So that was a really cool presentation, and we're excited to hear this is happening. All right. And then last report is the Unified Planning Work Program we've submitted a draft of it to NDOT for their review, and we will be bringing this document for your approval to the April 11th meeting.
Questions, comments? Thank you, Katie. Seeing no old business, new business, Bloomington, Monroe County, MPO fiscal year 2026 to 2030 Transportation Improvement Program adoption.
This is the final version of the Transportation Improvement Program. The draft document was circulated at the end of November and through the month of December. We had a joint public information meeting on the Metropolitan Transportation Plan and the Transportation Improvement Program at the same time in December. I believe it was December 5th, somewhere around in there. We also submitted it for comment review to the Indiana Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration, and the Federal Transit Administration. The comments have changed. Well, we received the comments back, and then a new administration in Washington, D.C. changed some of the comments additionally in January, the end of January. So as a result, we're 1 month later getting it to you than we would normally have it to develop. This program will take place, it'll begin July 1st of this calendar year. The fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th of every year. It's a 5-year program. The first 3 years of the program, 26, 27, and 28, are all fiscally constrained based on projected revenues. The last 2 years of the program itself, 29 and 30, are what are called illustrative because we don't have projections on the funding. The funding itself, too, is still somewhat up in the air because we're approaching a reauthorization of the Infrastructure and Investments Jobs Act, which was adopted in 21. That was a 5-year program. 26 means that it's up for renewal or review. We have no ideas so far what direction that's going, whether it be increase, the same, or decrease. And we also don't know where the emphasis will be on that. In terms of the overview of the document itself, I mean, this document shows in here $236 million worth of investments over the 5-year period. It's federally required. Well, let me go through the table of contents first. We have projects that are identified. All the projects are identified, and then the programming is identified for that. The projects are listed by Monroe County, City of Bloomington, Rural Transit, Bloomington Transit, Indiana Department of Transportation. Monroe County and City of Bloomington are capital projects. Rural Transit is an operating assistance for their 5-year program. Bloomington Transit is a mix of operating assistance and capital investment because they're going through fleet upgrades, and they're also will be developing a brand new operations and maintenance facility. More on that in the next couple of months. Then the Indiana Department of Transportation's investments are predominantly on safety, preservation, and maintenance and statewide analysis. Our financial analysis assumptions that are shown in Appendix A of the document show what we have traditionally received. This urban area received a reduction this year in fiscal year '26 because our funds are allocated on a per capita basis. Our population versus or vis-a-vis the population of the other urbanized areas in Indiana decreased. And the reason it decreased was the census taken in April 1st of 2020. Our students were at home, so we lost something like 40 to 45,000 students in the population count, and therefore our proportion is lower, and therefore we're receiving less funding in the way of federal funds for the next 4 to 5 years until the 2030 census. So the financial assumptions are out there. The transportation planning requirements are the requirements specified by the Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration. The biggest one is actually Appendix C, which is performance-based transportation planning targets. These targets are established by Congress under law, where each state must evaluate the performance of their system, how the interstate system, the non-interstate system is performing in terms of surface conditions, bridge conditions, capacity ratios, what I would call levels of service, and then also safety. Safety has become, and I hate to use the word biggest driver, but safety has become the biggest driver of all of the performance measures that we have. And given that, that's part of the reason why the city of Bloomington developed their Safe Streets and Roads for All plan, because safety is becoming their biggest driver also, if it hasn't already been. Appendix D, environmental justice. Wow, that's a political time bomb there. The guidelines that we were given prior to January 21st were pretty straightforward. After that, we're required to put in a banner under environmental justice saying that executive orders, I think there were 3 or 4 national executive orders, and there was also an executive order 2415 by the governor under the term environmental justice. We did the analysis anyway because it was all completed prior to those executive orders. So it's in the document. It just has a banner heading that we were directed to put in there as a banner heading. Air quality and climate change. Air quality has not changed in the Bloomington area. We're still an attainment area, full attainment area, and our attainment is predominantly for what's called particulate matter 2.5 microns. We have one monitoring station out at Binford Elementary School. Shows that we're consistently under the standard. The standard is 9 microns. We're at 2.5. Climate change assessments. Well, there's another politically charged term in that what has been occurring from Purdue University, documented by Purdue University scientists, Indiana University assignments, are showing that climate change is occurring, and that will impact our physical infrastructure assets, our pavements, bridges, predominance of flooding, high heat days, and a lot of other things. Complete streets policy has not changed. We hope to update that substantially this year and make it more reflective of what's called the Safe Streets and for All policies, which are now recognized by the Federal Highway Administration. Plan development and public methodology. We went through an extensive public involvement methodology, documenting every meeting with every person. Every public comment has been documented. Every agency comment has been documented also. Glossary is self-analysis, self-stating. Self-certification, we have to go through a self-certification process every year, and then we go through a formal certification every 4 years. This year was just a self-certification. NDOT agreed with us that we're doing our job, thankfully. Adoption resolution, oops, that's an error. That should be a 26 to 30 adoption resolution. We went through a public participation legal notice that was in the Bloomington Herald Times. Approval letter, there's another error, 26 to 28, I'm sorry, it should be 26 to 30, tip approval letter. Once this committee, hopefully this committee, adopts the Transportation Improvement Program presenting today, we will then submit that to the Department of Transportation for approval. They will recommend approval by the Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit Administration, and that will all occur in the months of April and May. And as of July 1st, we should be good to go as a notice to proceed, and then all the local public agencies, Monroe County, Bloomington Transit, Rural Transit, City of Bloomington, will have a notice to proceed on all of their federal aid projects too, and we can start encumbering funds. So this is what I call what's behind the curtain. What you see out on the roadway of being done, that's what I call the real work. And this is the paperwork that we're required to do, and we do it for you every 2 years with an update every 2 years. That's about it, unless you want to go to tables. Everything is fiscally constrained. In the draft document, what we presented to you was not fiscally constrained because the numbers given to us were 2022, calendar year 2022 numbers by NDOT. We received final numbers on January 4th or 5th, so therefore Monroe County and City of Bloomington were able to fiscally constrain all of their projects. The big takeaway here is on the bottom line where it says fiscal constraint. There's a surplus, Lisa, you'll like this. There's a surplus of $36,000 that are unaccounted for so far in fiscal year 26. Other than that, fiscal year 27, 28, 29, and 30 are all balanced out. Now, some of you may note fiscal year 27, why all the blank slates there? The answer to that is 2 years ago, or a year ago, two fiscal years, prior fiscal year 24, the MPO traded through the City of Bloomington. They traded funds with Indianapolis MPO for funds to build the First Street project with the payback in 2027. So in other words, the money was 2024, 25 money, and then the payback was in 27, and that's why 27 is showing up as blank, because that's an obligational payback to the Indianapolis MPO for there. The borrowing at that time was $4.6 million. Questions? I know this is an awful lot to go through.
Thank you, Patrick. Questions from the board? Jillian?
Just a clarification, Patrick, when you were describing the appendices there that had the incorrect dates, they're correct in the plan, the piece that we have. I just want to make that
Table of
clear.
contents was wrong. Yeah.
The
table
dates
of
are
contents
correct
is
in
wrong.
what we're reviewing.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think that's called a planner error or a Scrivener error.
Thank you. While we're talking about typos, I think that there might actually be a typo in it under the
Okay.
state thing where it says SR 45 intersection improvements with added turn lanes from SR 46 bypass to North Russell Road.
Yes, that should
46
be.
doesn't intercept with.
That should be State Road 45.
Yes.
Not State Road 46. And that was called to our attention by Scott Ferris prior to the meeting. And that's our error too, because we get that data from NDOT and usually we just polyparrot it in, and we should have proofed it through. So that's our error. We'll take the head on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
So is that just going to be adjusted then?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we'll change that one number. Yeah. They go by the program number. They have what's called a designation number, and that's the number they actually go by. They don't go by the description.
Yeah.
Are there any other additionals? I mean, 114 pages. If we can find more errors, we'll be happy.
Andrew and Neil for working with the county and us being able to adjust our projects to be financially constrained for everything, and moving forward, it worked out really well. So thank you to City of Bloomington. So adopting this would require a motion?
I have another question.
Sure.
I have another question about one of the NDOT projects. It just says traffic signal modernization and placeholders for modernization at various locations in the district. Do we know anything about like what they mean by what locations, or is that just kind of like what comes up in those years that might need it?
NDOT's given so much money per year for signal modernizations. A lot of times those are programmed as various locations. We try to get those into every tip, so we're flexible on where we can have that signal work.
Okay, so who
put out.
gets to determine that?
That's our district safety, our district traffic engineer determines those locations. That's
Okay.
usually about 3 years out.
Okay, thank you.
If you have a specific question about that, Des, I can get with you offline.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I have a specific question about a specific light, actually, so, thanks.
So I would entertain a motion if there's no more comments.
I'd move to adopt the, what's the official title, whatever the official title is of this report, the TIP report? The Transportation Improvement Program fiscal year 2026 to 2030.
Have a motion?
Second.
And we have a second. Any comments from the board? Any public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor for adopting the 2026 to 2030 Bloomington Monroe County Transportation Improvement Program, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And thank you, Katie and Patrick, for putting this all together and meeting the timeline, and we appreciate it.
And thank all the local agencies, too. Thank you.
Public comment on matters not included on the agenda? Communications from the committee members on matters not included on the agenda, whether it be communications or topic suggestions for future agendas. Joey?
So this is piggybacks on comments made earlier about an important topic that has been included in some reports, environmental justice and its impact on transportation. And if you guys were watching the news this week, Governor Braun has actually decided that he is going to strike environmental justice as a criteria for approving permits under IDEM. And so I'm wondering if we could discuss or sort of have a few moments to brainstorm what possible effects that could have on us locally here in the city of Bloomington and the county of Monroe. Because these are really important matters, and we just adopted on the county side, we were the first county in the state to adopt a climate resiliency plan, which we're enormously proud of. So that kind of strikes directly to our heart.
I mean, the investments are made based on engineering decisions, and based on those engineering decisions, we make the best effort possible, make sure we're not discriminating based on race, income, disability, all of the entire criteria. Yeah, we're well aware of the governor's executive order, what is it, 2415 or something like that, 2514. Anyway, we have the language of that. We've re-scripted the Transportation Improvement Program so that that way it meets his executive order. And we also re-scripted the Transportation Improvement Program language so that way it meets the federal executive orders. So the projects are not being, the investment decisions are not being made based on environmental justice. They're being made on a variety of other factors, engineering determinant factors.
Thank you. And thank you for affirming that even though we must comply with these criteria, as we must, thank you for reaffirming that environmental justice is still a very important thing. This is our homes and our families, and so we have to protect them.
Upcoming meetings, Technical Advisory Committee meeting is March 26th at 10 a.m. Citizens Advisory Committee is March 26th at 5:30 p.m. And the next Policy Committee is April 11th at 1:30 p.m. And all of the meetings are hybrid also. So I move for adjournment.
Thank you so much.